Okay, this is the introduction to branching. I made this just March 31st, just today. And we're going to basically go through some information about branching in general. First of all, we're going to start a basic review. So let's get started here. In the basic review, we're going to look at the stuff I originally told you, that computer programming divided into two areas, control structures and data structures. The control structures have to do with sequence, branching, and looping, and we're now in the branching area. The data structures that I'm interested in you learning this in this set of programs is integers, longs, doubles, chars, strings, and booleans. Okay. The idea of branching, it not only covers what we call conditional branching, but the branching within a program going two separate ideas of code, but also the unconditional branching of actually jumping out to a routine and coming back to the routine. And within the conditional branch, there's actually three areas. There is the single branch, which is what we're going to look at mostly for this program. However, some of you may choose to use the dual branch. That's where you can have two branches. And then there's the select case statement that we're going to use in another way later on. Okay. The basic format of a single branch is that we're going to have a Boolean logical condition. Now, we'll talk about those in a little bit. If this condition is true, it's going to jump into whatever statements we have in this area right here. If the condition is false, it's simply going to jump around to the end and go on with whatever statements happen to be down here. Now, here's some flow charting, and we'll get into flow charting in another program because you do need to understand about some ways of laying out logical or mapping out the logic of your program. In this particular area, we've got the condition here is represented with a diamond shape. Diamond shapes represent conditions. And rectangular shapes represent statements or processes to do, things you're going to do. And so this little setup right here on the flowchart indicates or shows this basic if statement over here. You have a condition part. If the condition is true, it's going to jump right into these statements right in here. If the condition is false, it's going to, of course, go, like I said, out around. And that's what this flowchart symbol represents. The dual branch if is similar. It has, again, just like we showed before, a Boolean logical condition, true statements right here, and then if those true statements, if this Boolean condition isn't true, if this condition isn't true, then it'll execute these statements before going out onto the rest of the program. So this is two things. You can either do this or this, where in the first case it was just do this or don't do this. So in this case it's do this or do this is what we're looking at. And again, looking at the condition over here, we've got a condition right here, and we've got two branches. We've got the true and we've got the false. So it'll either do these statements here or it'll do these statements here. And then it goes on with the rest of the program. Boolean conditions, a Boolean logical condition we're going to talk about now in a little more detail. The condition is some sort of an expression which results in a true or false. Okay? It's usually a comparison between two things. However, it can be some complex ones, and compound ones can compare more than two things, but generally you think of a simple condition as a comparison of two things. The concept of Boolean logic was derived from Boolean algebra, and it was created by George Boole in the early 1800s. Now, good old George Boole was born in 1779 in England, and this is just a little history I think you should know. He did most of his work in Queen's College in Cork, England, and today Queen's College is called University of Cork, and it's a constituent of the National University of Ireland. Okay, so that's George Boole. Just a little historical note there, so you know who George Boole was. And that he created Boolean algebra way back in the early 1800s, late 1700s maybe. He did a little starting work on it. So that's where Boolean algebra came from. Boolean algebra is a unique algebra in which you have just ones and zeros as your possible choices. So a lot of things you do in normal algebra or a lot of things you can't do in normal algebra, you really can do in Boolean algebra. Enough said about that. Let's look at the 6 logical operators for comparison. 6 logical operators. Important you get these down. There's the equals. You can say A equals B, or one thing equals another. Okay. There's the not equals. Now in Java, that's an exclamation point equal sign. So it's different in different computer languages. But for the most part, it's going to be it's just not equals. I hope that doesn't show up in the movie. We'll find out in a minute. The greater than. The greater than symbol is, checking to see if something's greater than. We have less than, of course. Then we put two symbols in a row, less than or equal to. I'm sorry, this is greater than or equal to, and less than or equal to. Okay. Some examples. Let's say A contains a 5, and let's say B contains, here's A containing a 5, and B containing also a 5. C is going to be a variable that contains a 3, so C is the one that's smaller. If we say is A less than B, we're asking is 5 less than 5? That's false. Is A less than or equal to B? Well, that's 5. Is that less than or equal to 5? Sure, that's true. How about A not equal to B? If A not equal to B, then we're going to say that that would be false because A and B are both 5. How about if A greater than C? That's true. How about if B greater than or equal to C? Well, that's also true because it's B is greater than C. 5 is greater than 3 since C is 3. How about B equal to C? Well, no, 5 is not equal to 3, so therefore that would be false. Okay. Visual Basic has some operators they use for comparison. They have ands and ors. The ands and ors are used to connect two simple expressions to make compound expressions. And then they have an operator that operates on a simple expression to reverse it or change it around, the not. So those are three important ones, all right? And looking at those, we're going to take, and we're going to see the order of precedence. Now this is important. Parentheses come first, just like algebra. Then the comparisons are all of equal rank. Then the not, the and the or. And sometimes you need to know this order of precedence so you'll know when, if you need to put parentheses. Okay, because sometimes you'll need to put parentheses on some of these things. Alright, so equals are evaluated from left to right. So for example, any of these would be evaluated from left to right, unless, of course, there are parentheses on the thing. Now, if there's parentheses on it, that changes the order of operation, just like in algebra. To show you some more complex conditions, here are some that we've been using. Here's A less than B or A less than C. Now let's see what that is. This would be like 5 less than 5. Is that true? No, that's false. That part's false. And we OR it with 5 less than 3. Well, both of those are false, and an OR, they both must be false in order for the whole thing to be false. We'll see that in a little bit in the truth tables. Let's look at this one. A equal to B. Yes, 5 is equal to 5. Or is 5 less than 3? Well, this is false. 5 is not less than 3. But we can do, we can say 5 is equal to 5. That's true. So since one of them's true in an OR, then we get a true out. And I'm sorry I said the wrong thing up here. Either one or both are true, then you get a true. Alright? Okay, so let's take a look at the and now. The and is A equals B. Okay, does 5 equal 5? That's true. But 5 is not greater than 3, so that's a false. See, I asked 5 greater than 3, that was false. In the and condition, both this and this must be true in order to get a true out. So under those circumstances, we get a situation where we'd have a false coming out for this one. Here's another one. A equals B. That's true. And A greater than C. That's also true. So they're both true there, so that'll naturally be a true coming out. A less than B. Well, that's false. So immediately we stop right here. Ands have what you call short circuit. As soon as it sees that there's going to be a false on the and, it stops. It also short circuits on the or. As soon as it sees that one of them's true, the first one's true, it won't need to evaluate any further because it'll know it. The ands are the most important, though, in doing that short circuit evaluation. Alright, so A less than B and A greater than C or B greater than C. Now, we evaluate these with the AND first, since AND has highest preference. So we look at this ANDed with this. A less than B is false, which means this whole thing is false here in front. We don't even have to evaluate the rest of the AND part. But now we have to take this whole thing as being false. Okay? So we're looking at this as sort of one single grouping now, and we're going to OR it with this. So B greater than C is 5 greater than 3. That's true. So even though we have a false here, we've got a true here. This whole thing becomes true now. So the whole thing becomes true. Let's look at this one. We have the OR and the AND. What do we evaluate first? The AND. And this messes people up more than enough. So let's take a look at this. We've got A greater than C. That's true. And we've got B less than C. That's false. So the AND part here, this whole business, is going to be false. Therefore, if we do that with OR, A is equal to B, that's true. So now this ORed with this is a true, and that's how we get a true out there. We should look at truth tables now to take a look at the AND and OR. And we'll reduce our greater than or less than simple comparisons down to a single letter to look at the truth table. For example, I hours, which may be the hours, is less than 40, and actually that's a statement you'll be using in some of your programs. We'll represent it as an A, as lowercase a. And I days, less than or equal to 3, we'll represent it as a lowercase b. All right, so basically our representations are, this is a simple comparison. We're just going to say that's the A, and this is a B. So when I say lowercase a or lowercase b on this next slide, you'll immediately realize that it's actually this and this, okay? The AND a lot of times is represented by a dot or multiplication, and the OR is many times represented by a plus sign. We think of it kind of like addition. That's not quite true, but we sort of get that idea. So let's go on and take a look at these truth tables. In the truth tables here, we have a number of combinations, and we get all possible combinations by counting. You see, if I have 2 items, I count up to 4. This is 0, this is 1, this is 2, this is what? I'm sorry, this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, this would be 3, which is filling all the I's. So actually we count up through 4 counts. Alright, in the AND situation, you must have both 1s. This has to be a 1 and this has to be a 1 in order to get a 1 out. That's the only combination that makes a 1 out under an ANDing condition. Anything else gives you a 0. Okay? On this one, the OR, as long as you've got a 1 someplace, which would be a true, you get a 1 out. So these are all 1s. The only situation on an OR is when you have both the zeros, then you'll get a false or a 0 out. So one way of thinking of this, for this to be a 1, A and B must be 1s in order to get a 1 or a true. Over here, in order to get a true, A or B, or both of course, A or B or both must be a true to get a true, as you see in this case down here and these cases right up here. Okay? Alright, let's look at some examples of if statements now in the next section. In this example, I want to show you how to place radio buttons and checkboxes and how to use these. So I'm going to pin this in place, and I'm going to come down to a checkbox. I'm just going to double click, and that puts it over there. You see it on the form? And I'm going to double click again because I want 2 checkboxes. I would like about 4 radio buttons, so 1, 2, 3, 4. I would like a regular button, and I'd like a label. There we go. Now I can unpin this and go back. I'm going to move this around a little bit here, And I'm going to show you two ways of doing these things. So here we've got this, 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 and this, and check boxes. Let's just put them right up here at the top. 1, 2. You see lines show up to help me line these things up. All right, now the big job comes. I've got to rename these. So let's start. This first one, let's see. It's going to be called. I'm going to pretend like I'm creating a store of some sort, and Madden's computer store. And of course, I'd put a nice label on this, make this form look very nice. But for right now, for this demonstration, I'm just going to do these things. So let's see. This 3 letters again at the beginning, just as we've done before. And we did this already to the form, as you can see right up here. If you take a look at this place, you can see where I've labeled and named the form FRM. And we labeled the project up here. See how that is? PRJ. And I've saved these previously. So now I'm putting these on them the proper ways. So let's get back down here. And we're going to name the checkbox. The first 3 letters on the checkbox are CHK. Okay. And I'm going to call this one monitor. M-O-N-I-T-O-R, monitor. Okay, good. And that's checkbox monitor. And I can come down and do the text on it. Let's go through and do the naming quickly on all these. Okay. And so if I'm here, I'm going to do CHK printer. Okay. And let's come down and do this one. Let's see. This will be LBL display. And it's going to basically display stuff. And this is going to be, I'm going to call it the do button, BTN do, just so you see what happens. Okay, radio buttons. These are, they used to be called option buttons, OPT. I don't know, RED maybe for the 3 letters. I'm not sure what the standard name is. I'm going to stick with the old way and say OPT. OPT. And we'll call this one large. And go to the next one down here, and this would be OPT small. And let's go to the next one. Let's have 2 colors, OPT red, and we'll just go down here to OPT blue. Alright, so we got them all named properly now. We're going to go back and take a look at the captions at this point and quickly put captions on each of these. If I come down here to the text, which is the item, and checkboxes, we're going to call this one, I think, monitor. Did I do that right? M-O-N-I-T. Oh, that's correct spelling. Let's go to this one. We'll call this one printer. ER printer. LBL display. Actually, that'll take care of itself. Let's do the button do. And this one was large. And this one was small. This one was red. And this one was blue. Okay, we've got our button set up. I want to call your attention to another field over here. It's called the checked field. Let's see, of course I have to get on one of these to find it. The checked field, there it is. There's 2 fields. There's checked aligned, and then up here on these, if you'll notice, there's a checked state. I believe there's also a checked state in here on this one, but I don't see it highlighted anywhere on the properties, but I believe they have one hidden. They don't display all the fields here all the time, all the properties. But the checked property is the property that we're going to look at when we look to see whether the box is checked or not. A couple of letters. Oh, did I get that one wrong? Come on, let's try it again. Geo. There we go.
All right. We can do this a couple ways. You can check the buttons from the code, and you're going to use an if statement to do that. A single branched if will see if that's checked and be able to total a price for you. If we have a price for this and a price for this and a price for that. But before we do this, let's run this and see how this sort of works. If I save, and make sure you save all the time, and then I'm going to start a run here, and we have to give it a few seconds. There we go. Came up quicker than I thought. You see, I can check and uncheck monitor. I can check and uncheck printer. I can check large, but you see they're all just in the form. They're the same group, so I can't choose a color in that. I've got to get these in two different groups somehow. And we'll stop that, and I'll show you how to do that. You use containers to do that. And so we go back to our toolbox. We come down here to containers. We open it up, which I already have it open on mine, and I come down here to a group box. Group box is what I want. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to draw myself a nice group box here. And I'm going to name the group box. Let's bring it up to the top here to name it GRP. And let's do this one for color. Color, okay? So that's going to be my group box, and I'm going to come down to the text and call it color. Now notice where the text goes. The text goes basically right there. See it? Color. All right, now if I drag these two into the group box now, they are now a separate group. And it's nice to line things up if you can. Okay, so let's see what that happens. I'm going to save it again, and I'm going to start it. And if I check this one or this one, they'll remain saved, and I can come in and check a red or a blue here with no problem. You see, I've grouped them. Now, one big group is, of course, the form itself. Any one of these, then, are separate little groups. But sometimes it's nice. It'd be nice to put a group box. Even though we don't need one, we can use the form as the group. It's nice to put it around each one, so you have a little label on them. The other thing to remember is that in the older versions of Visual Basic, you had to create the buttons within the box. If you did not create the buttons within the box, they were all part of the big group out here. You couldn't just drag them and drop them like I did. This newer version works fine. Let's quickly go on to the code just to see how much code we have and to see what we have to do. We're going to use if statements. The first code I'm going to put in, I'm going to type it in the go button. So after these are all checked in the way I want them, I'll hit the go button and it'll kind of put something in this label. Okay? Then I'll show you how to do a simple check at each instant, but that's a double branched if, and we may not want to get into that in this first project. The first project I'm going to have you do, well, you could go either way, so I'll show you either one. So let's stop this now. Did I stop it? There we go, stopped it. And let's go quickly into the code, and the first code I'm going to go into is behind a button. In this button, of course, up here above, you should type all your stuff, my name, the date, and all that, and declare any variables. And so let's see. I'm going to have to get up here somehow. Not that. Come on, how's this going to work? There we go. Enter, enter, enter. There we go. And so I'm going to type apostrophe. And apostrophe. Today's date is 3-31-08. And the project is apostrophe first. B-O. Try again. AC K-E-D checked. Oh, actually, edit boxes and R-A. Good enough. All right. Option explicit on. Option EX. Explicit on. Okay, now dim dim total as double. Okay, and that should be D total actually. Okay, and you know what? I dimmed it at the wrong place. You've got to dim these inside a class. So I'm just going to take that. You see how I click out here on this area in the white, and then I bring it in here so the arrow's the other way, and now I can just drag it wherever I want to. So I'm dimming this in the class here. Okay, I think it'll let me do that, right? That looks good, sure. All right, so let's see. Clean that up a little bit. All right, so I've got all this garbage up there. Let's come down and look at the real guts here. Now this is where I want to put my if statement. And basically I want to add something to total, and I'm going to display something in text box so you can see it. So if space, and I put things in parentheses, although in some cases you don't need to. Let's see, the first thing was a checkbox. So let's look and see if the checkbox is there. CHECK, let's see, that's not what we called it though, did we? Called CHK, check. There we go, monitor. Let's do that one. Check monitor dot checked. There we go. Equals, and I just hit the equal sign, it goes across. I have a feeling that on the movie these aren't showing up, these drop downs, but you'll see them when you actually type them. Alright, so we got checkbox, check monitor, checked, equals, true. And I'm going to put a parentheses now on that. Okay, and the word then, and hit enter, and then we do what we want it to do if it's true. This automatically creates a single branched if. So if monitors checked is true, I would like to take whatever's in total and add, let's say $250 to it. So I'm going to take total, what did I call it? D total. D total, there it is, equals D total plus 250, and you don't have to put the 00, it'll do it. Okay, I'm also going to display that D total is checked, and so we're going to take LBL display dot text equals let's see, a string monitor is checked. And you know what I think I'll do? Yeah, I think that what I'm going to do is come back. I'm going to take this right here and I'll copy it and put it in here, and then put a space plus sign after it. And what that's doing is that's going to concant onto there, onto whatever's in the display. It's going to add this to it. So when I start clicking around on a number of things, you'll see a number of things there. All right, so that's good for monitor. How about the other checkbox? Well, look. If I just copy and paste, okay, I can now do printer the same way. Hope I have a printer. Let's see, and I'll put this over here like printer. Okay, and that's good. And we can do all the radio buttons now in the same fashion. I've got this copied already. Let's just continue down here. Let's see, I need 4 of them, right? There will be 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got all 4 of them down there. Let's start with the first one here. We want, what did I do? Option buttons, I call them. And if you want to do this, here's one way to do this. Delete it first with a spacebar or something, and just put OPT. And we've got, let's do, should we do colors first? Sure. And so I'm going to take this out here. OPT. And let's see, blue. We'll do red next. OPT. Didn't work. Gotta delete it first. OPT. Okay, let's do large next. And finally this one. OPT. And small. Coming down here and clicking on small. Had to double click to get in there. Alright, and I'm checked each time. Let's see, I better put the displays here. This is blue. This is red. Large. And then I gotta scroll down here a bit. Small. Okay, save it. Run it. You should always save before you run. It's just a good practice. Alright, let's see if this works. I should have increased that monitor. Alright, so if I click on monitor and then large and then red, I'll get all of them in the label, which you can't see, can you? Okay. So let's go check that label out a little bit. We'll bring it right down here, put the button way up here in the corner, and I'm going to drag it out as far as I can. Well, you know what? I know we're not running. Why can't I get a drag out on this thing? Let's... Oh, come on now. It's not letting me resize my label. Why not? Okay, well in that case, let's just display. Gotta be a way to resize this thing. Hold on for a second. Coming down to size here, I'm going to type, let's see, 13 is good for a height, it looks like, but let's give it about, let's give it like 100. Won't let me resize. Okay, fair enough. Evidently, once I've saved the thing, I can't resize it for some reason. Don't know why it's not letting me. At any rate, you could see that that worked in that fashion, and that's the way we do these things. Now, one other thing I wanted to show you. Let's say we wanted instantaneous change. And, of course, we'd total up when we put the display in the label box. But let's say we wanted that. I'm going to just double-click one of these. And I get a thing like that for the printer changed, okay? Well, in that case, what I can do is go up here and get this printer one. Let's see. And I'm going to come down here and paste that into there. But I'm going to add something to it. At the very end here, I'm going to do enter. And I'm going to put the word else. Hit enter. Now, I can do a total. Now let's say I've added that total into the dtotal. Well, I would like to instead subtract it out now if it's not checked. And so what will happen is this will happen if it's not checked. So let's put the minus sign there. And I can subtract that 250 out. So it'll tell me instantaneously, and it'll put it in and subtract it out. And instead of displaying like that in the textbook, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this out of here, and I'm going to display dtotal in the text box. Dtotal. Let's see, where's dtotal? Total is going to be displayed in the text box now. That's probably what I should have done the other so you can see the total change as we did these. Alright, so I've got printer checked or unchecked. So let's take a look at that. We'll save that quickly, and we'll just run it. And now if I check printer, look what happened. Printer is checked, right? Printer is unchecked, shows a 0. Printer is checked, should have showed a price in here. But that's because the other one is happening, I guess. Oh, I didn't change the other one is the reason. Let's stop it for a second and go back and change that one. Should have put that in here too, shouldn't I? Here we go. D total should go in there as well. Okay. Save again. One final run. Printer, there it is, 250, 0. 250, 0. And of course these others don't work quite that same way. And you could rig it up in such a way that you just added the total each time. I did not do that. But at any rate, that's what would come out with it. Okay, I just wanted to show you those things, those features. Your next assignment is going to be using radio buttons and checkboxes.